Hello, welcome to the second in our series of feature update webinars. It's great to see that a few people have joined the call today. We're looking forward to taking you through some of our latest product developments. I'll start with some introductions though, just so that you know who's talking to you. And then we'll tell you a little bit about BitBloom just in case you haven't come across us before. So firstly, I'm Mike. I'm one of the founders of BitBloom. I also head our technology and product teams here. On the call today as well, we've got Orla. She is our UX designer and assistant product manager. And very importantly, we've got Asbjørn, who is a senior analyst at BitBloom and also one of the main users of our product. So before we get into our features, we've got some exciting things to show today. I just want to tell you a little bit about BitBloom. So we're a renewable energy company, and we work to improve assets, both wind and solar assets, by analyzing the operational data. And we kind of think that if you're not doing this, if you're not analyzing your operational data, then you're leaving money on the table. There's a lot of really easy kind of revenue to be gained and risk to be avoided just by looking deeply at the data. And we've built a lot of good software and analytics around doing just this, and a lot of really good workflows so that we can make sure that we're actually delivering value at the end of the day. So we do this across a few different categories. So we can increase the energy yield of assets with performance monitoring, so we can detect slight changes in performance, much smaller deviations than you would typically be able to notice. We can find health issues early with condition monitoring. For like main components and various bits of analysis that we can do there. We can reduce risk, legal risk, and improve compliance. So this is very important for lots of areas, especially in Europe. And as well, something new, and I think we showed this in the last feature update that we did. We can help you explain your budgets with yield insights, and we can automate the generation of those budget reconciliation analysis as well. So in order to do all of this, as I was saying, we've built a really rich software platform. We call it an operational analytics intelligence platform. This is called Sift, and that's what we'll be showing you a little bit of today. You can see on the screen here as well a few of our customers there, and yeah, they've been working with us for many years now to really improve the profitability of their assets. Okay, so what are we going to do today? Today, we're going to showcase a few of our latest features that we've been developing. We really push things through quite quickly to make sure that, our users have always got the latest features available, and we're also working very closely with our users a lot of the time to listen to them and to implement what they need, and make sure that that both our analysts and all of the stakeholders across all of our clients' portfolios have all of the tools that they need when they need them. So the features that we'll be demoing today, firstly, we've got the energy loss value calculator. This is a new innovation on the kind of task and collaboration part of the software. We've got a document insights tool. So this is building on some of the work that we've been doing with large language models and AI to shed a bit more light onto a lot of the unstructured data that exists within your portfolios. Next, I'll be handing over to Orla for a couple of demos. Firstly, the data studio. So this is bringing a lot of the kind of raw data, the time series data, into the platform for the first time to try and close the loop on some of the deep dive analytics that we can do within the web platform. And finally, the analytics dashboard. So an important view for any analyst who is wanting to make sure that all of their analysis is running and keeping up to date as they expect it to. Okay, without further ado, let's dive in. So the first feature that I'm going to demo today is around task value calculations. So we've been doing task value analysis in the past. I'll briefly explain what a task is within the system. So when we're running our analysis, we're raising alerts when we've got a threshold exceeded, for example, and that's rarely the end of the story. So so in order to really provide good guidance to all of the stakeholders about what needs to be done next, we need to provide a little bit of a backstory on what we've found out. So that involves a bit of a deep dive sometimes, and also putting together a kind of yeah, like a story and some explanation of what's going on. And this has got lots of supporting data in it, such as custom visualizations and now value calculations. So the value is really there to quantify the impact of the issues that we're seeing. So we want to understand the cost of both of the issue that is going on and also of resolving the issue, so that we can come to a really really good understanding of what we stand to gain from from fixing these issues. This is helpful for all stakeholders to prioritize their work. So it's not just urgency that we're looking at. We can really precisely, quantitatively state what should be the most important things to work on, and overall just add more information so that we can make more informed decisions. So I'll jump into a bit of a demo now, if I can find the right window. Here we go. So this is one that Asbjørn has prepared for us, and it's typical of the kind of issues that we see. So Asbjørn will help us explain it shortly. But this is a control difference that we've spotted across 11 turbines on this site. So this is our demo site, and it's got some kind of real data that we can use to demonstrate the capabilities of the system here. So as I was saying, part of this collaboration and these tasks is putting together a story. So you can see that the analyst has done that with some supporting information here, and we can see that there's a change here, and there's a lot of other detail there. The thing that I want to demo today is the value. So we've put some work into understanding, okay, what is it that we need to get across? What is going to be important for the stakeholders to understand here? And that's really the available value that we stand to gain. But we also want to understand how fast it's incurring costs. So working backwards, what we end up with is this nice chart here, which shows a progression of the value over time. And so this is a very, very simple case, and I'll show in a minute how we can build slightly more detailed cases. So on this chart, we can see along the x-axis we have time, and along the y-axis we've got the loss that this issue is incurring. So this is a kind of AEP-based loss, so 0.25% of AEP, and we can see that over time it's getting more and more. We're losing more and more money there. So this one is been going on since 2015. So not a super proactive team here, but of course every team has their own priorities, and so we mustn't judge them for this. Nevertheless, we can still see that we've got these vertical lines, one of the issue start, and we've got now on the chart. And so this shows us quite clearly, if we look at it with these values down here, how much we still stand to gain by resolving this issue. So we've configured this to with an end date of the project decommissioning date, which is configured elsewhere to be in 5 years' time. And we can see that if we continue to incur these losses, then we will ultimately result in a loss of 207,000, nearly 210,000 euros. However, if we intervene by the target date, so we've configured the target date as well up here in 5 months. So if we can intervene within 5 months, then we only stand to lose just over 140,000, which gives us the result here. If we resolve it on target, we can essentially avoid 67,000 euros worth of losses. So this, you can see how this is really important information for helping our teams prioritize. Just briefly before I bring Asbjørn in to add a little bit of bit more explanation and a bit more color here, I'll show you how we configure this. And so if I just edit this and we can configure the loss timeline. So it's a really very simple configuration here. So we've got 3 categories of, or 3 scenarios of losses that we want to configure. We've got the actual scenario. Of course, this is only possible for anything that happened in the past. And we're saying that up until now, it's been incurring 0.25% of AEP across the turbines that it's affecting. We've got the no intervention scenario. In this case, we've got a copy of the actual scenario so that we don't have to reconfigure it multiple times. If we decide to change what the actual scenario is, for example, we don't have to go and update the no intervention scenario. And this scenario is in the case that we don't intervene. So looking back to the chart that we had there, this is the case that keeps on going up until the end of the project. From now until the end of the decommissioning date, we're extrapolating that loss. So we're taking what's happened previously and we're saying, yeah, this is just going to keep on happening. However, we have another scenario, which is the intervention scenario. And this is what we configure to say we are going to resolve the issue. We're going to resolve it on the target date. And the result is that after the target date, we will be incurring 0% of AEP losses. Essentially, we'll be back to normal. So this, both for the analyst to build these scenarios up and for the rest of the stakeholders to understand exactly what the value that they stand to incur or gain is really kind of straightforward. And yeah, we've done a lot of work to understand how to communicate this to across the stakeholders there as well. Just one more word on this. We have other types of scenarios that we can configure. For example, we can have an instantaneous loss, which is, for example, that might be a major component replacement or some downtime. So those can be configured as well. So we can have different loss profiles for the task. Okay, so that's a little demo there. Asbjørn, would you like to share anything about your experience with this?
Absolutely. It's actually something we've been working on for an incredibly long time, so probably can spend a full hour just talking about this just by itself. But that was a very, very thorough introduction already. I think I won't actually go into the detail of the observation that we're looking at. It's just an example. But I think the main thing that I want to say about this is that it's so much easier to explain where the value comes from, and like it's so much more traceable how we got to this point now and saying this is worth so much over this amount of time. So it means that if I have a regular check-in call with the client where we look at all the open tasks, we have a pilot task open, and we say, well, we've got like 3 tasks that are worth a lot more than others, or it accrues a lot more losses very quickly. We can prioritize those, and we can agree to pass those on to the operator first and not overwhelm them with all the tasks, even the small ones. So it also, yeah, especially the slope of these lines, of course, gives it a bit of a feeling of urgency. The value that we get out of this is not meant to be the most exact value that you can get. It's just meant to prioritize. So we can improve on this, of course. Often what we do is to either use a model to estimate what the performance impact is for the first parts, the blue one, and then assume that's the same for the future. But of course, we can change that. And so the other things that I want to, so the other thing actually that I wanted to say there is that I can use real data to estimate loss as well and calculate what that was percentage-wise in the past, for example, or add a custom loss in the past, and get an estimate of what we incurred so far. And this tool now gives me a very easy way to explain and like how we've used this for the future scenarios or the other scenarios where we say, okay, what if we don't do anything, or what if we do something on a certain date, and we can see what the impact is of that date. It also shows you how important it is to act fast and how much we lose by acting a little bit slower. We can also, of course, have that data and say, what if we miss that target date by a few weeks? How much is it going to cost us, kind of thing. So the final comment I wanted to actually make there as well is that on the other page with all the configurations there, there's a lot of flexibility. So at the moment it says the decommissioning date, but I have tasks that I would say it's not the end of the the project, but it's actually if we would have, like, if it's a curtailment, for example, I expect people to pick that up in a monthly report in the month after, and then so my end date would be custom and it would be next month. But because we picked it up 2 weeks beforehand and we do something immediate, my observation window is a lot shorter, but the value can still be very high. So it's important to have all these things flexible, and also the slopes that are in here, they can be compounded by multiple ones as well. So you can have like more turbines being affected at certain times. You can have so these slopes change, and you can have different values in there. It's all very flexible and very, very explainable, which I think is the main win here. From before, we had just a value. It says this is worth say 60k, and now we can say how that's actually been calculated and where that comes from. So I think I'll leave it at that. Leave it at that, and I'll pass it back to you, Mike.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Asbjørn. Yeah, I think you touched on there a couple of points which are really kind of core to the philosophy of Sift and all of the work that we do, which is that we really want everything to be very transparent and for it to be easily understandable by lots of stakeholders. We're taking a lot of data here, the raw data from turbines, and we're putting in knowledge from the analysts and turning it into something that is really actionable and understandable. So, so yeah, it's good to see that coming through in these new features as well. Okay.
There has been a question that's come through. How is the 0.25% loss from AEP actually worked out in the configure losses setting? Is this something the BitBlim analyst decides, or do you require a lot of input from the client or operator?
I'll take that question. I think that's a perfect one for me. So in this case, I came up with that one, not totally manually. So what we've got is a model that we use, like a reference turbine model, where we can see what the impact would be of or we can get an estimate for what the impact would be of a controller change. So that's not very easily otherwise determined from like a power curve or something like that. So I've used this model given a wind speed distribution of the site that we're looking at in this case as well. So I can feed that into that model and see what the impact is on annual production. And then I've scaled that down actually, so the impact of this change, which is quite a significant one actually, when we looked at the torque speed curves there, was like 0.7% or so, and the 0.25% there is just a ratio from the amount of turbines that are affected. So that's where this number came from. It's still quite it's quite a rough one, I suppose, but different. One of the things I want to say there is like that different issues require very different ways of calculating it, of course. So if there's a curtailment on the site, I can generally use a expected power and an observed power and just calculate what the losses were so far. I can feed that through a wind speed distribution for the site that is representative of the yearly wind speed distribution, and get an estimate for what the normal impacts are on AEP, and get an estimate. So that's normally something I would do, particularly for those performance ones. On the other side of that is things like what if like a temperature increases and we make a task for that. So we say like if we see a high gearbox temperature, what does it mean that we pick that up? Like what is the loss? The loss to date is probably very close to zero, but the instantaneous loss of it failing or doing something proactive so it doesn't fail catastrophically can gain us a lot, of course, in the long run. But there's only maybe a small percentage of turbines that where we see such an increase, it actually turns into failure at a later date. So what we tend to do with those kind of things when we talk about component health is talk to our clients, and in that case we want to have an agreed set of values of like what is it, what's the value of picking up on an overheating main bearing, and what are the costs of replacing, and what are the gains of doing this proactively and being able to plan this. So of course, as you probably know, there's a lot of complexity to this, but the performance ones like these ones are easier, and we will fill that in. I hope that's a little bit of an overview. It's again tempting to talk a little bit too much about this stuff, but yeah, we can talk about that.
absolutely. Yeah. If there's any of that we want to dig into, then we can leave that till the end. Feel free to ask some follow-up questions. But I think for now we'll move on to the next item that we're going to demo today. So yeah, feel free to keep writing questions. If we have anything else that's related to task value calculations, we'll return to those at the end. But it's always good to get a few bits of interactivity into these sessions. So thanks for that. Next is AI-powered document summaries. And so this is building on some of the work that we're doing with the latest AI models. So there's a lot of technology that is really kind of unlocking the kind of unstructured data that we get in documents that get uploaded and documents that just exist within your projects. So this feature that we've built, and we're just kind of finding small kind of high impact places to work this technology in at the moment, rather than a kind of general purpose chatbot. We want to again bring the information to the people who need it when they need it. So what we're doing with this is building on the work that we did with the document library, which I think we demoed in the last feature update webinar. We're now generating automatically summaries for those documents. And so this is pulling out a lot of kind of complex unstructured data and doing a nice short executive summary for whoever happens to be looking at these documents. And that's part of what it does. And the other part I think is more powerful. And this is finding links between those documents and other data within your system. So we've been looking at tasks already. And one thing that we find is really useful is being able to say for a new document that gets uploaded, okay, do we have any tasks that cover any of the issues that are visible in this document? And then we can make those links, and that gives the analysts and all of the stakeholders just a little bit more context around the issues that they're seeing and understanding, so that we don't have overlapping work, so that we can maybe reach a conclusion a lot more quickly. So I will demo that quickly. So find this one. So I won't go through the generation process at the moment, but every time a new document is uploaded, we will be automatically generating these insights for it. And you can see that it's generated a nice little summary at the top there, and also created all of these links. So not only will it link to existing tasks, so we give the model tools to go and find related tasks, but it will also make suggestions where we don't have a task covering some of these issues. So we can see that we've got quite a lot of issues that it thinks we might be interested in, and then it's the user can make the decision to create a task for those. And you can see that here we have a link to task suspected yaw misalignment. So what will happen if we click on that? I'll make a link. As it happens, this task is this document is already linked, so we can see it there. So that's part of what we're doing with Document Insights. I'll just quickly demonstrate another aspect of this, which is that we can kind of do the reverse. So when we have a task that's been populated with lots of useful observations and root cause analysis, we can also go in and say, okay, look, I want to find some documents that are related to this. This might even come earlier in the process. Maybe we've just identified a task, or maybe we've got some alert exceedance, threshold exceedance. We've got a small description of what's happening, and we want to go and see if anyone's already looking at that. So we can find related documents with the AI, and this does more than just search the documents. So we've already got a really nice search feature which allows you to just drop in some keywords and find some related documents. But what this is doing is it's getting all of the information that we've populated in the task. It's feeding that to the model as its context, and it's saying, go and look for documents that might contain some of this information. And so we've indexed all of the documents already. The model will choose some search terms that it thinks will pull out some relevant information, and it will return to you all of the documents that it thinks are relevant. And so you can see doing the reverse here. We've already pulled out the document that's linked. It's just a demo environment, so this task doesn't have a lot of information in it, but typically we'd see quite a lot more documents being found for this kind of action. Yeah, I'll leave the demo there. Asbjørn, would you like to?
Yeah, I'll be a lot shorter on this one than I think on the last one. I think it speaks for itself quite well. I think everyone on the call will know that operating a wind farm produces a lot of documentation. So we get documents from like operator monthly reports, but you might also get them from the service team or like maintenance reports, access records of the site. And I've in the past also worked worked with all those documents and having to go through all of them manually and having them on a file explorer and storing that. And now having that much more accessible, of course, makes that a lot easier. It means that we get, like you said, Mike, a lot more context when we create tasks and understanding of what's already been observed and what's not, and what other observations have already been made on site. Because of course, from our office here, we can't always see, or we can't hardly see what they know on site. So very valuable information to use.
Yeah. I think this is actually a really nice example of AI helping us do a job that just probably wouldn't be done otherwise. I think a lot of these documents are not going to be read by the relevant people unless we have an automated way of doing that. And the new AI tools are really good at pulling out that information and forming links between different sources of unstructured data. So yeah, it's really powerful. And the more documents we get, the better the models will get at finding those references as well. Okay, so unless we have any questions popping up now, I think I'll hand over to Orla for the next demo.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen.
I will stop sharing mine.
Okay. Looks like that's sharing. Yeah, so I'm going to present the final two features today. The first one being the new raw data studio, which we've now introduced on the Sift Monitor platform. So yeah, basically this new feature allows our users to now plot 10-minute raw data, whether it's wind or solar data, into our new plotting studio. And this can just help our users to identify some data patterns. They might want to create custom visualizations to plot and visualize performance signals. And it also just generally allows our users to dig a bit deeper into the data and do a bit more exploration. So I'm going to demo this new tool today. So I'll just jump over it. Let me know that that's all sharing still okay. Good, it looks like it is from my end. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so the new Data Studio, so you can find this in the navigation bar. It will be sitting under Explore, and then you can navigate to this from the Data Studio here. This is one that I had set up earlier, so I'll just quickly show you one that myself and Asbjørn had set up together, and then I can walk you through how to set something like this up and just demo some of the tools in here. So here we're looking at raw data of 2 turbines on this demo wind farm site. So if I want to set something like this view up again, I can navigate back into the Data Studio, and to create a new plot, you can select New Data Plot, and this should appear with your fields and selections here. So by default, it will select the first project that's in the list and the first turbine. So if we want to multi-select different projects, for now, I'm just going to keep it on Demo Wind Farm 2, but you can do so in this list. And then to select the turbines I'm interested in, again, this is a multi-select list. So I'm just going to pick turbine 20 and turbine 21. And here you can select your time. We're going to keep this as last 28 days, but you can see there's different selections there, date range, all time, etc. And you can apply a Sift Explorer filter here as well if you want, depending what you're looking for. So all these filters apply to everything. But down below here, we can set up different layers that have specific filters themselves. So I'm just going to demo that by selecting, if we want to select one turbine in this layer here, we can select what type of plot we want to look at. So we've selected a scatter plot. You can select your x-axis. This will be time for us. With this pen tool, then you can do a drop down and add an axis name, and also set your min and max levels here, and you can do the same on this y-axis. For the x-axis, I'm going to look up the signal main shaft DE bearing temperature mean, and just check the projects demo 1 farm 2 turbine 21. Again, you can select your time filter here, and then color by, so you can color by flags, color by signal value, by instance. I'm just going to select auto, but you can also change the colors here as well. And if I add a new layer, what it basically does is duplicates all of the information that I've set up in layer 1, just to make it easier, and you can change that information in here if necessary. So I'm going to keep all this information at the top the same, keep the project the same, but in this one, I'm looking to look at turbine 20. So let's just double check, 21, 20. This again changes the color down here. And if I jump down to the bottom, I can update this view that's appeared on the right, and this will update it to match what I've selected on these tools on the left. So here we can see both these turbines being plotted here. And if I want to save this plot, I can name that up where it says untitled plot. So let's say I'm just going to call this demo plot 1. And you can save this if you want to create different plots that you want to use again in the future. I can save as a new plot. This will just take a minute, and then I can jump back into this data studio, and then I'll get a list basically of all the saved plots in here. If I want to reopen these, I can do, or I can just set up a new one again. So yeah, just a brief demo on how this works, but maybe I'll pass it over to Asbjørn to explain a little bit more. Anything I've missed there, explain a little bit what we're looking at.
Thank you, Orla. So yeah, this was a big update for me as well. It makes a massive change in terms of the amount of time I'm spending on tasks. So what happens is I tend to see something in a KPI. So for example, we see a residual bearing, like I think this was well, I don't know which one this was actually. Can't really read that, so small.
This one?
But yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's I think it was maybe a main bearing or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, main bearing.
Like a temperature, and I see that in the weekly average, it's seeing that that's now high. So we raise an alert in the system automatically to say, oh, this is a high temperature. We need to go and check that out. And so the first question that comes to mind is that now a slow trend, even if it looks like a slow trend, or if it's a fast trend? Is it a trend, or is it like some spurious data? Is it some spiking that we're seeing? Or so it always helps to go back to the raw data. Also helps when talking to final clients and operators and people on site to just show the raw data and show what's happening there. So that step in the past meant that I had to download the Sift file, so the Sift Explorer file, and have a look at the raw data there. We can now do that here. That helps a lot. So besides the chart here, where we can clearly see that there's a slow trend of the green one away from the orange one, which is a neighboring turbine, same component. What we can also plot is, for example, the temperature versus power, and see whether this is only happening at high powers. We can also, so we can change the x-axis to be something else and just show a scatter plot, for example. We can show power curves. You can show pitch versus wind speed or torque speed curves, and do quick comparison of before and after a change. Or you can plot the whole site. You can plot 2 different sites next to each other. So there's a lot of flexibility here to explore the data. A lot of ways to sort of quickly plot some of that raw data and get a first hint as to what's going on, and maybe help sort of populate the reports or the tasks that we're making. So that's, I think, yeah, it's really helpful. And then in in the templates, it's really nice to have those set up in advance, so we don't have to like every time go through all these settings. And we have some, like I have some fixed ones for power curves and some ready to go. So yeah, so that's that. That said, if there's still some deep dive analytics to do, what we don't do, for example, is linking multiple charts. There's no, right, if you create like a torque speed curve and you're wondering what's happening with these points in the power curve, that kind of linking is difficult, and it's not done here. That's still done in Sift Explorer. So if you do any deep dive analytics, or you set up new analytics, so you want to explore how do flag rules work, for example, for state categorization, I'd still go to Sift Explorer for that. So a lot of benefit in task population and quick checks, and actually quite a lot of options. Also options that we don't have in Sift Explorer, but like the comparison from site to site. Yeah, still, yeah, an extra step and an extra thing that saves a lot of time. I think that's my main comments here, I would say. Orla, I'll pass it back.
Okay, thanks, Asbjørn. Useful to get your inputs there as well. And yeah, again, if there's any questions on this, do pop them into the chat, and we can also visit that at the end of the webinar too. But I will jump back to my slides and go to the final feature, which is our new analytics dashboard. Yeah, so we've created this new dashboard, which now gives our users this at-a-glance information on how the analysis groups are performing, whether runs have run successfully, and allowing users to get a bit more information on this. If, for example, something wasn't running successfully, they can discover why that might be happening, but it would just give users a quick way of seeing this from their homepage. So I'm going to jump back to our site here and show you how this looks. So here we have our overview, standard homepage view, and we can see how the different projects are performing. In this case, it's wind turbine sites. We can see how things are performing from an operational standpoint. So if there's alerts going off on certain sites, there might be issues on some of the turbines. So this gives us a really good view from that perspective. However, we don't see whether these analysis groups are running successfully and how things are looking from that perspective. So we've set up this new view, which you can navigate to here right next to it, so the analysis view. And this gives us this type of a view, so you can see each icon displays a different status for each of the analysis groups. So in this view, everything looks like things are either running successfully. Some things mightn't be set up on some of the analysis groups, but nothing on this view looks to be failing. If we want to get a bit more information, you can see when I'm hovering over these, you can actually pin the list of analysis here. If you want to find out a bit more information on this analysis itself. So for example, if this was failing and you wanted to get a bit more information, you can actually navigate directly to the execution summary to find out why and get a bit more information. But if I jump back to this view, you can pin multiple views. So I will do that here. At the same time, if you want to keep multiple things open. And also get an idea of your scheduled runs up here as well. So it kind of gives a good update of the pipeline status and so on. So yeah, again, I'll pass this to Asbjørn to give a bit of benefits from a user's perspective of why we wanted something like this, and kind of talk a bit more on that.
Yeah, this is the one that's maybe a little bit harder to explain than you might imagine. So if you go back to the execution summary, actually of one, I think.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. So I think what this overview quite well shows on the right, so it's a little bit hard to read maybe as well, but what happens is that I hope people on the call kind of notice, but we have pipelines of analysis that we set up in Sift Explorer. They are connected analysis components, so calculate this signal, set up the state flagging, calculate another signal, that kind of thing, calculate some KPIs, and then and then we can present those. Those pipelines, they can be quite complicated, but they require a certain order in which they are calculated, and that's so we manage that through Sift Explore. They are scheduled, so we can run these on a schedule. For example, every morning or every night, we run these analysis. It includes data import, so any new data gets imported. All the analysis automatically runs on top of that, and we get an output. So what we did in the past was saying whether that run was successful with a little green tick, and that was that. We now also have a lot of opportunities in Sift Monitor to add additional analysis definitions here. Those are not part of the same pipeline as we have in Sift Explore. They're just appended at the end of that schedule. And that means that some of these analyses can run and can fail. And so you can see on the right there with those yellow bubbles and maybe also a red one that some of these analyses might actually fall over. And because maybe those signals don't exist for this project, but it doesn't mean that we want to fail the full execution of that analysis. So what we were getting is that there was an opportunity there for things to sort of silently fail a little bit. The data was here, it's available, and we could always look it up. But what happens then is that if you go to the home page, you get alerts going off or not. But then if you go to an individual page of analysis, you might see that some of the analysis might not have been updated for a while, just because the definition had been failing a few times. And so what this does really is this overview that you're now showing, Orla, is showing the exact same view as the one before that, so the home page, and they are it's like structured the same. It shows the analysis groups on the y-axis, on the columns, and it shows the sites on the rows, and therefore it shows for each of these views that are in those groups whether they are successfully populated or not. That also means that if analysis didn't work out and it failed, but it's not used anywhere, it doesn't raise an alert. So it's not important if things that are not fully set up are used in the analytics that they're running well. So yeah, so that's that. But it gives an extra overview. It gives extra insight into the success of these runs, and it's well needed. It also came with an additional extra feature as well. So in the past, particularly in the beginning of Sift Monitor, we often had only one major pipeline we ran that was called something like do full analysis, like we do everything. Nowadays, we split that up a little bit more, and we might do reanalysis data imports in a separate pipeline. And then now in that column for the scheduled runs, we can have multiple pipelines and feedback on the multiple as well, rather than just the one. So it's another benefit of this view now. Yeah, I think that's all I have got to add to this.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, so I'll maybe just conclude to our final slide, and just the last couple of notes before we jump to questions. But I've just noted here, you can find us at some events coming up in the future, all in September, but BitBloom are going to be attending Solar and Storage Live UK, which will take place in Birmingham on the 23rd, from the 23rd to the 25th, and also going to be present on a virtual event, Offshore Energy Technology 4.0. If you do have any questions or you want to get a bit more information, I've just popped the QR code and the address for the BitBloom website. You can go here to get a bit more information on our products, or we also have some case studies there, some different articles. We have access to Sift tutorials if you want to learn a bit more and get a bit more information on Sift Explorer and Sift Monitor and learn a bit more about those platforms. But equally, we're very happy to jump on a call with yourselves if anyone has questions on the features we've just presented or anything else. If you are looking for a demo, we're happy to talk, so do reach out to us. But yeah, I'll pause there for any questions, any final questions from anyone who's joined. And yeah, hopefully we can get a few and answer a few.
Is BitBloom's AI system developed in-house, or does it connect to third-party platforms such as ChatGPT or Copilot with data shared externally? So for our AI, we use services hosted on Azure. And so Azure is, of course, as I'm sure you know, widely adopted by enterprises, and the data doesn't go beyond the Azure cloud, and Microsoft have very robust kind of data sharing agreements in place. It's much the same as hosting your data on SharePoint or something like that. So we're very very aware of the need for organizations to make sure that their data stays protected, and that's why we only use these types of services that have very robust data sharing agreements. Hopefully that answered your question there, but feel free to ask any follow-ups if you have them, or you can always catch us offline as well. Just get in touch. So one from Sophie: what other opportunities do we see for LLMs? So obviously for the last couple of years, LLMs have been very very buzzy, and I think that we're starting to see some interesting use cases for them in our products now. I think we're trying to focus on a couple of things when we're using LLMs. So at the moment, we don't think that handing over kind of full autonomous control is a good idea to LLMs. We want to always have a human in the loop, so we're making sure that that is the case. But they are very good at kind of summarizing and extracting information from these unstructured data sources. So bringing in more data and helping the analysts and the other stakeholders using the platform find links between different data sources and add that extra context, and increasingly kind of transforming the data that we have into maybe a format that's better suited for certain stakeholders and not for others. So we're kind of peppering the LLMs around the software. Another key thing that we want to make sure of is that that their use is as predictable as they can be. I think LLMs have this stochasticity problem where we are not always guaranteed to get the same output given the same input. In fact, that never happens, and so we need to make sure that where we are using it, we can handle that kind of that robustness, make the system robust around them. Okay, do you guys want to add to either of those points at all?
No, thank you. I think you're very very well placed.
Yeah, I don't know what else I could say.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, just a moment for any more questions, but then we'll wrap up. So yeah, thank you very much everyone for joining the session today. We've really enjoyed presenting these new features to you. So stay tuned, check out the website, follow us on LinkedIn, and we'll be publishing more of these feature update webinars in the future. We're continuing to ship really interesting new features and talking to our customers about what they really want and what will help them in the platform. So we're excited to share those with you in the future. For now, though, thanks Orla, thanks Asbjørn, and thank you everyone for joining. And enjoy the rest of your days. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.